Today we're going to be painting a couple sub-assemblies that make up a Space Marine Havoc. So a Havoc Space Marine with a Chain Reaper cannon. Usually I do this for about an hour, so it seems to work off really good. I got my paints here. I am working on a subject right now. So I just finished painting up some pauldrons. So kind of hard to focus it, but I got that done. This one's been done, so kind of hard to see without it focusing really good, but it looks phenomenal. So, and then this one is gonna go on this guy. So I've pretty much finished this guy up. I just got to put his shoulder armor on. As you can see, there's one right here and the other side that's missing. You don't have to put them on, but I think they look a little bit better sometimes with them on, but you can keep them off. Like if it's a scout unit, for example, scout units are supposed to be light in armor to be lore accurate, but I like putting the pauldrons on. I think it looks really good and it makes a lot of sense from a tactical standpoint, because these guys are using some pretty heavy equipment. They're also getting shot at on tabletops, so you want to make sure your guys look the part, right? So yeah, really cool looking. This is just an average legionary or space marine that I got done. As you can see, I have my camo basing. That's kind of my signature work that I like to do. I wish it would focus on him a little bit better, but it's kind of blurry, but he looks a lot better in person than he does right now. So anyway, then I'm gonna varnish it, everything like that. So but painting, we got a couple things here. So hold on, swing over. All right, so I did a video, went live yesterday, and what I did was I showed off all of the priming that I did for each of these. So a lot of these were primed. Some of these, I've been working on these. These are just no rush to get these painted. However, this one here is gonna be painted today. So this Chain Reaper cannon, I'm gonna be painting this bad boy today because it looks really cool, and I think people will really like to see how it is when I paint it up and how gnarly it looks. So we're gonna make this thing just absolutely diabolical looking. Okay, so let me go ahead and get the camera into focus here. That way you can see my work and not me as much. So let me just get the angle just right, so bear with me. There we go. My wife is sleeping over there, so she might be hearing some noises from her if she's talking in her sleep or snoring a little bit, but yeah. Okay. So, and then remember, this is on a reverse, so whatever you're seeing on your screen is actually the flip of what it actually is. So you might not be able to read that, but it's Citadel color. So let's just see what we're going to do for this. So for this Chain Reaper cannon, before I start painting it, I look at it and I say, what are the main three colors that make up any character, any warrior that's on the table? Because for Warhammer 40K, the rule is if you're going to paint your minis like I do, you want to make sure that you have three colors, distinct colors. Like my guy has multiple different colors going on here. So he's got the bronze, he's got the black, he's got the red, he's got the chainmail, he's got brown leather, he's got the white on the, or like the the bone on the horns, right? So that's multiple different colors here. But like for this one, so I'll definitely have brass along here for the bullets, right? The main part of this gun is going to be a gun metal. So for that, we're going to use lead belcher, which is a really good paint. If you don't have this in your collection, you you should definitely own that. So I highly recommend owning lead belcher. For brass, I like to use a little bit of two different distinct colors. So here's Retributor Armor. This is also a base color. And then this is Rune Lord Brass, also a base color. They work very well together. And then other colors that I can do would be for So looking at this, I want to see, like, do I want to make it look modified, like from a technology standpoint, or do I want this to look like there's some sort of a chaotic growth coming out of this? Because I can see some like little teeth on here. And I got to decide on if I want to make that bone and actually make it like a weapon that's possessed, if you will, or has some sort of a angry machine spirit in it. Or do I want to just make it bronze and it just looks really cool, like the metallic, and it just looks really gnarly. And then usually I do some muzzle effects, so muzzle burn effects, maybe some red in here, just to make it look hot, right? Because this is a fast shooting weapon. So when I paint, I like to make it look like it just spent a bunch of cartridges, or it's battle scarred, it's worn, you know what I mean? So maybe I'll have some paint chipping effects on here, some weathering, a little bit of rust on it, definitely some grime. Goes a long way with painting these. So without further ado, this is already primed black. So I used Vallejo blacks in my video yesterday. Those that watched it, if not, you could watch that and you could see how I kind of do things. But I'm going to use black for like his arm, right? So that armor is black, except for on here, he has a little bit of the retributor armor. So that goes on here with highlights. And then like around this, there's brass fittings. So I'm going to paint those. And then I'm probably going to start with right here, which is the barrel. So let me put these to the side. And I'm going to shake up the lead belcher. You want to make sure you have a really good consistency with this. You don't want it too thin. You don't want it too thick. So I just do it by hand. So I'm just going to shake this up in the background. You want to really shake your paint. Some people buy like little vibration-based shaking. So like they do for like the larger pots, like if you bring it into Walmart and they give you a paint, they shake it up, right? They put it in that big machine. For these small paint pots, I do have mixing balls in here too. You can barely hear it, but you can put mixing balls in here. And this is something that I wish I knew a little bit earlier on. But if you're having trouble mixing your paints, you could throw some little paint balls in there. I get them from Army Painter, which is a pretty good deal. Throw them in here and it'll help you shake it up. That way it'll help the consistency get a little bit better. Let me shake this up. All right, a lot of work, a lot of work, a lot of work. Okay. And then we want to check it. So whenever you pop these open, you don't want to just flip it straight open, because then you'll get a lot of paint inside here that'll start to drip down and you'll start to lose it. So what I do is I just kind of crack it a little bit. I do some taps, and that'll help all the paint that I mixed at the top go down to the bottom. And then I'm just going to keep it slightly cracked. Okay, just like that. I'm gonna grab a paintbrush. So I could grab any paintbrush if I really want to. I'm gonna go with this one. Okay, so this is a number 4 round. So that's the type of bristle that it is a round tip. And it's a number 4, so it's pretty thick. You know what I mean? It's not a thin brush, but it's really good for basing. And this is a Royal and Land Nickel. I highly recommend these type brushes. Always want to get your brush wet. The only exception would be dry brushing, okay? If you're actually dry brushing, but that's for another video. I'm not doing that right now. So when you open up the paint pot, as you can see, there's a little bit in there. What I like to do, you could get it from the sides, but I like to personally just go right inside this little area right there and just get a good little glob of it, okay? Not too much. You don't want to get it all the way up to the fennel. But I would say just the tip of it, okay? So just the tip with paint, but a good healthy amount of paint, because we're basing. And when I look at this, I want to go with it. I don't want to go against it too much, not yet. So I'm just going to get a good base down and just going to start painting. Okay? It doesn't have to be super perfect right now. You're just literally throwing paint on here, and you want to make sure that it's an even coat. So you don't want it to be too pooled up in one area or too splotchy in another. You want to make sure that you are getting all of the surface that you want to paint the same color at the same consistency. So, and you'll get better at this over time. So, but I'm not, you know, like when I first started painting, I was so careful about even just doing base paints that it took me like a freaking hour just to put base paints on because I was so scared of doing it wrong. Like I was like, oh, it has to be perfect. I have to do basing properly, and like you don't want to just haphazardly do it. And then for some areas, if you want to get in there, instead of doing like one of these where you kind of mess the bristle up, you can kind of dab it in there. But I just usually just run it horizontal. Maybe I'll just dab it in the corners. But you want to make sure you're covering all of the surface evenly in the same color, okay? And we're not talking blending paints. We're not talking, you know, mixing colors or any contrasts or, you know, complements or anything crazy like that. We're just doing basic basing. And the reason why you want to base your paint with your subject, so this is called a subject, right, in art terms, you want to start by priming it, because priming it allows it to have the paint, the acrylic paint, to actually stick to it, okay? And then you want to base it. So this is a base color. This is the main color that we're going for. All other colors that come after this, like secondary colors, tertiary colors, complements, weathering effects, you know, battle damage, stuff like that. That's like finer detail type work. That's going to go later on. But for right now, just focus on getting the main components that you want. And it's okay if it, like, see how I got that over there a little bit? Like, that's okay. Don't worry about it. You're just basing. You're going to come back to that later. So this, I'm just going to kind of get it on there. Again, it doesn't look super pretty. Like, it looks really good around the barrels, but it doesn't look too good around that muzzle area, and it's okay. I'm going to get to it. And there's really no need for me to lacquer it on. I'm going to take that off. There's no need for me to lacquer it on because these holes, I don't want to fill them too much up with paint because I want them to be empty. That way I can do other effects with them. Okay? So let me grab a little bit more paint here. Aye, that's going to happen. So let me put these ones in my holder. I have a brush holder, but I'm not using them because I'm silly. Sorry about my creaky chair too. I'm gonna be getting a new one hopefully for Christmas. So I just gotta find a good one. I might find like a tattoo artist one or something because they have, or like a mechanic shop one, right? So anyway, let me continue on with the painting. And then make sure you don't touch any of the surface that you're painting. It's still wet paint. You want to make sure that there's nothing pooling up, there's no globs, anything that's really obvious to the eye, because if it dries that way, it's going to look really bad, and all you're going to do is paint over on top of it, and it's just going to build and build and build, and it's going to look really ugly. So just make sure you get a good 1 to 2 coats of your base paint. So I'm making sure to get every little nook and cranny in here. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. But I'm just using lead belcher. And then I want to get the tip of the muzzle, right? So that muzzle, the 6-shot on this chain Reaper cannon, I just want to do a little bit. So just a little bit on the tip, not too much. Just a little bit of paint. And I'm just going to kind of get it all in there. But I don't want to stick it in the holes, so in the barrel flutes, you know, kind of like that, how it happens. You don't really want to do that, so I'll just pop it. It's just little air bubbles. It's not going to hurt anything. But you just want to pop that little air bubble. Come on. There it goes. So I just popped a little air bubble on it. All right, so that, and let me just check the rest of this to make sure I got it. You want to check it from all angles. So when you're painting, don't just look at it from like a one. This is, you know, I'm the kind of guy who paints all sides of everything. There's some people who only paint like just bare minimum, like they don't even try. They just do what is seen. I like to paint the whole weapon as it is. So some people don't even bother painting this. They're like, oh, they're not going to see it anyway. Me, I'm an artist. I like detail. And I don't know, just for my mind's sake, and I have the time, I do actually paint both sides of the weapon, or something that wouldn't be seen, you know, from staring at the miniature, unless if you really had to look at it from different angles. But that's just how I am. You don't have to be that way. People call me excessive. Yeah, probably. So there's a little bit of buildup on the muzzle there. I just want to smooth that out. I want to make sure that there's no... Okay, check the consistency. Make sure you get in all the little grooves, all the little nooks and crannies. And I'm just going to check it from different angles here. Now, when you base this and you're done with your first base coat, if you're doing just one base coat, which this will probably take 2 base coats, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe not. But once you're done with it, do not paint over the wet paint. Do not. Okay, you got to let it dry, because if you start painting over on top of this, it's going to start to smear and smudge, and you're going to get a textured effect. And for this is a metallic type of paint. You don't want to just start going over it with other colors, unless you're trying to mix paint, but I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about basing it. When you actually do this, just make sure to let it dry. And if your temperature is good, it's not too cold, it's not really humid. Like if you have a really humid apartment or house, or you're working in the garage and it's super humid, it's not really gonna dry right. And I know that sucks, but you know, you want to do it season depending. Like for us, it's not too humid out right now. It's actually getting kind of cold up here in northern US. So I'm okay to paint this indoors. Humidity is not a factor. The cold isn't a factor, so it's a good temperature. Normally this takes about 15 minutes to dry. Okay, so acrylic paint by Citadel, I found it to dry within about 15 minutes. Don't make the mistake of going over your work if it hasn't dried yet, because you'll start to see it, how it smears, and it just looks horrible. Now, while this is drying, okay, I can also look at this subject here, and I can say, okay, what else can I paint in the meantime? Because if I'm going to wait 15 minutes for this to dry and I don't do anything else, I'm wasting my time. So what I would recommend is I'm going to work on the belt. So all this ammo here, all the bolter ammo that feeds into this machine gun, I'm going to go ahead and paint this. Again, just a base coat. I'm not worried about detail. I'm just worried about getting the colors on here and making sure that I get it fully covered. And then later I'll come back and I'll do a layer paint, which is on top of it to add a little bit more depth, a little bit more realism. And then you add weathering to it, or grime, rust, make it look dirty, you know. Those are effects that you can do later. So let me go ahead and I'm just going to keep this in my finger while I shake up a pot. I'll be using Retributor Armor. So that's a really good color. It's a nice pop on black. I'll be doing the all the brass fittings that are around this machine gun. It's gonna look really fucking cool. And that's the way it's supposed to be painted. But you could do it opposite. Like if you want to have it brass with a black outline, it's up to you, man. I just like it with the black on the in, brass on the out. I think it looks gnarly. Every once in a while, you can switch it up if you want to like change a couple things on some of the guys just to break up the monotony, so you're not painting the same way for everything. You totally can. All right, so let me get my paintbrush again. Same one, just the number 4. Just a round tip paintbrush. You want to get it wet, but you want it damp, not like dripping wet, okay? And then you want to make sure that your tip, its shape, is pretty straight. Like, I mean, it's going to get a little hooky after a while, like this little hook on here. And if it gets really pronounced, I usually just throw it away and I get another brush. But for the most part, this one is still very serviceable. And I could just use my fingers to run it through while I go around it. And I'm just getting all the excess water out, but it's still damp. Okay? So let me go ahead and open up this paint pot. And if you're liking what I'm doing, I'd really appreciate a like, or if you want to comment, that's fine. So I just shook this up. That's a really good consistency. It looks creamy. And that's the type of consistency you want to see in Citadel paint. So again, I'm just going to get the tip of the paintbrush. Nothing too crazy, okay? So just a little bit. And I'm going to start painting kind of like this on all the ammo. So I'm not worried about it getting in you know, too much or too, you know, I just want to make sure it's a good, even base coat on this. And then I'm going to follow it up with Rune Lord Brass to give it more of a copper feel. But I just like this because it's a nice, bold, metallic color, and it just looks really cool. So I'm just going to go ahead and just start base painting this belt of ammunition, okay? And just kind of making sure I get in all the little grooves. I get in all, like, the every sharp piece, like all the bullets individually. I'm just going to go over it. And this might get a little bit more on here. I don't want to glob it again, okay? So you don't, if you do glob it, it's okay. You can just work it out. And if you get a good glob on your paint brush, what you can do is just put a little bit here, and just work your way until that glob is gone, okay? So I'm just painting. I'm going with the ammo, so I'm going like this. You can go sideways and stuff like that too. That's totally fine, but I'm just making sure to cover the main parts of the belt of ammo with that base paint, that base acrylic paint, okay? It's gonna look really freaking cool once it's done. But for right now, again, I'm just focusing on basing it. So just going over it, checking it. If there's any spots that don't have it, I'm putting it on there. And if you paint over any of the connection points that you're gonna glue to other pieces, that's okay. You can use a little scraper tool and just gently scrape that off. And then when you glue it together, you want plastic on plastic. So I'm not worried about that right now because I know how to do it. But if you're really conscious about it and you don't want to like paint over something you're not supposed to, you could also put putty on it. So there's a little bit of putty on this arm, because that's going to be where the arm glues into the shoulder portion of the Space Marine. And then on the outside is the pauldron where it would glue on it. So there's putty on there. That way I don't accidentally paint over it or, you know, whatever. And when I'm ready to take it off, I can take it off pretty easy. It's not a big deal. Okay. And then again, just careful not to touch the barrel because I just painted that. It needs about 15 minutes. You know, I'm not really timing it right now, but I can kind of gauge it after a while. I could like look at the clock and I could probably tell, you know, like, oh, it's been 15 minutes. But what you can do is just put it to the side, let it dry, and then grab something else and start working on that, okay? So if you have a big army that you're working on, or you have like a multiple piece, multi-component type of subject that you're building, I would recommend building it like a little assembly line. Just do a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit. Now that looks really good, okay? So as you can see, I based that perfect. So I did a really good job basing that along with the barrel flutes here. So this guy, for right now, I'm gonna go ahead and put him up to dry. So I'm gonna come back to this little, this is actually a hair clip thing, but I modified it to hold some subjects that I'm painting. So I put putty on here. I open up the clamp and I just put it like that. That way it doesn't go anywhere, okay? Because you don't want it flying off or falling or anything getting on it. So I have a place that I can put it over here where it will dry, and I keep it straight up. And I just let it air dry again. So you don't want to touch it. You don't want to bump it. Just let it sit and let it air dry, okay? Make sure it's in a good environment. You don't want it to be too humid or else it won't dry. Now let's work on our next one. Here's a pauldron, okay? So this is an armor piece that's on a Space Marine. This would normally go on the shoulder. So this is not for him, but it would go on him like this, okay? So when I paint this, there's only two main colors that can be on this, really. Then you can add a third color, but usually it's lead belcher. We got Retributor armor and Abaddon black, okay? These right here are really the only three colors you need to paint, like, most Chaos Space Marine armies, okay? And then you can throw in like Corvus Black, you can throw in your Rune Lord Brass, maybe some red. So I like red, like corn red, really good. If you have like a color scheme that you're going for. I also am a little crazy, and sometimes I throw in some Caliban green just to like add a little bit of an extra color to things. You can also use orange, or like if you're doing fire effects, I have yellow. There's so much you could do with this, my gosh. And there's also people that use like, where is it? You can use Incubus, or I'm sorry, Mechanicus, Standard Gray, and then where is it? Incubi Darkest? Yeah, Incubi Darkness is also another one that looks really good when you're painting Space Marines, especially if they are Chaos Space Marines. You can use it as a highlight or an edging, and it looks really good. Not with everything, but sometimes if you use it just right, man, does it look awesome. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to base this in Abaddon Black. So mainly this main, the round part of the shoulder, I'm going to base that in Abaddon Black. And then what I do after that is I'm going to go with the Retributor armor, and I'm going to get all the brass fittings all along here. And it's okay if it's not pretty, because then I can go back to Abaddon Black, and I'll go back over this round part and make sure it looks really clean. It looks really good once it's done, so. Okay. Let me see if there's any comments, too. Yeah, we got 8 people in here. Hey, thanks for joining. I appreciate it. Do we have any comments in here? I don't see any. But if you're liking this, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Okay, so back to painting. It's what everybody wants to watch, right? It's the cool stuff. So I don't see any comments. I hope I didn't miss any. But let me get my back there. So let me move all the paints that I don't need to the side. All I need is Abaddon Black, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and shake this up. You can hear that mixing ball in there. Shake it by hand. You want to make a really good consistency with this. So again, what I do is I just kind of partially open it, and then I just kind of tap it down, because you don't want the paint globbing, or else you have to keep cleaning these stupid pots. And I don't like to open it all the way, just partially, just a little crack there. And then just kind of, either you can keep it open or reseal it if you'd like to. Doesn't matter. For me, I just kind of keep it a little cracked, and then I want to make sure I close it every time, because you don't want your paint drying out. You're not going to get the consistency. So it looks really good. It looks really creamy, nice consistency, just a little bit on the tip there, like a healthy amount. But you don't want to like scoop it up, okay? Too much paint is actually a bad thing, especially when it comes to this. All right. And what I could do, right, is I could, you know, make sure I get in all the little like necessary nooks and crannies, so I get it just right on the first one. So when I'm painting this, I'm just kind of using my brush to follow and to smooth it out, because you don't want it looking not smooth. If you paint this and it looks chunky, or it's just not even, then that is incorrect. It will not look good when it dries. It will be really bad. So if you want to thin it down, you can, using some water. So you just get a little bit of water on your brush, and you just start doing some painting motions. So as you can see, maybe you can see it, maybe you can't, but it looks a little uneven. So I'm just going to take my brush here, and I'm just going to go ahead and do gentle sweeps to make sure that this sucker is drying really nice and it's smooth. So I don't want any bubbles on it. I don't want any paint pooling up that isn't necessary. I want it to be nice and even. So I might go over it a couple times. I'm just spreading the paint around. And again, if you feel like it's too thick, you could wipe it off. I wouldn't do that. I just add water to my brush, and then I just start painting over it and over it and over it with water until it looks really good. So you want it to look really smooth. So if you want to like go with the round shape, so I'm doing like these sweeping motions over it like that, see? That kind of helps it get really smooth, and that's the type of texture that you're looking for because it's armor, right? It's armor. So you want it to look like armor. You don't want it to look like something else, like mud, right? You don't want mud unless if that's what you're going for, but there's paints for that. And then right now, I just got a little bit of water on my brush, and I cleaned it off. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and go over it with the water, kind of like a watercolor, because you notice how watercolors, if you're ever painting with watercolors, it just kind of just makes it look like a liquid on the surface. That's a really good consistency to have, or like a nice texture where it's almost shiny, but it's smooth like a marble. So if you use a little bit of water on a clean brush and just go over your work before it dries, man, does it look really good. And make sure you're using the right brush. If you start using the wrong brush, like a really small, thin brush, it actually looks not right. It looks horrible. So you don't want to base. So if I'm basing this, like say I'm doing a paint, you don't want to use this. This is for detail work. This is the wrong brush for painting on wide sweeps, okay? This is a really good brush, like a nice, not like super big, okay? So let me give you an example, right? Like this is a massive brush compared, it's not a big brush, but I'm just saying like in comparison, this brush is huge compared to this one. This, you could be using it, but this is meant for the whole shebang, okay? I use this for basing a lot, or if I'm priming, I'll use this for priming, but I'm not doing that. I'm not like trying to get in there with this giant brush and doing little work. You won't be able to get in there. It's impossible. It's really hard. So you want to have certain brushes to get into certain things, and detail matters, right? So this is a very sharp point. Even though it's long, it's very long, it's very skinny, but it's got a nice point at the end of it. This is a 1. Okay, this is a really nice, this is something I would use for, let's say this subject right here. So as I can see, there's like little vents that are right here, and then these are like little incense burners, okay? So what I would do is I would use this to get inside these little holes that are inside the incense burner, or I would use it to like get the vents, or if I had another subject and I wanted to get his eyes. So I actually used this brush to get this guy's eyes, okay? Because it's long, and you could just kind of work in there, and you just kind of, you're able to get into those fine details. I also outlined his eye too with black, and it's very, very small. But I was able to do that with this brush. See how I just did that? This is dry. I'm just showing you how easy it is. Compared to using this, it's going to be like all over the place. So use the right brush for the right thing. Brush control is something you will learn over the time that you are painting. And like brush control is, for example, if you're a really shaky person like this, brush control teaches you how to hold it a certain way, and you can use your fingers to help you steady while you're painting. So that's what brush control is. That's how people get into these little tiny nooks and crannies. I learned if you want to get in there and you want to make it look proper, brush control and your hold is like everything. I've seen sometimes people use like a pinky on a finger, and they can, see how I can do that? I can get in there really easy, and I'm not like trying to hold it like this because it's a little shaky. It's really hard to do that. So if you brace yourself with just a little pinky while you're painting, that's how you're able to get in there, like this chainmail, for example. You know what I'm saying? So that's just something to teach you guys, something to think about later. And you'll learn that over time, and using your appendages that you have to steady yourself, or going wrist to wrist is another way to do it. So if you're having contact with your wrist to wrist while you're painting, and then let's say you put your pinky on here and you brace it, you can really get good details. And then sometimes even other pros, what they do is they keep their brush in one spot and they move the subject instead. So what they do is they grab their detail brush, and what they do is they put it on their subject, and they'll actually move the subject around the brush rather than the brush around the subject. So that's advanced painting for you. But that's another good way to do brush control. So if you're a really shaky person, unless if you have Parkinson's, which I'm sorry for, then, or you just, you just got the shakes really bad or whatever the reason is, it's definitely good to learn brush control and how to hold your subjects really good. So, again, I want this to look like this, okay? So you can see the difference there. How does this become that? Well, let me show you. So get my Abaddon Black. I already you saw me how I base coated this. It looks dry, but it's not dry yet. But you see how smooth that is? I mean, come on now. Look at how smooth. Let me just bring the light over here to help you out. This thing is smoother than a baby's bottom. There's no texture on that, but I painted that, okay? I based that, and that's how I was able to get that really good, nice consistency that I'm talking about. Let me bring this light to where hopefully you can see it a little bit better. And then I'll switch into daylight here. So, like that. That's like daylight, okay? So it helps me, when I'm seeing with my visual eyes, how I can get from this to this, okay? So let's continue on, shall we? So I don't want to touch this because it's still drying. I just painted this. But what I can do is flip it over, and on the back, I can paint all this up, okay? So with that, I want to use Retributor Armor. So that's another base. I've said it like 1,000 times. Take a shot for every time I say Retributor Armor. You're going to be really drunk by the end of this live. So thumbs up if you're watching, if you like my content. I'm just shaking this paint up, and I'm going to go ahead and apply it to the subject here. So this is Miniature Painting 101. So I want to select a brush. Doesn't have to be a perfect brush. This is a Citadel one, just a starter brush, nothing fancy. But I want someone that has a little bit more detail than this brush. I could use this brush, but I think this one is just fine for the job, okay? Again, I just kind of wring my fingers over it to make sure there's no, like, little hairs in it, or we got animals, so you want to make sure you don't have any of that in there. And then that's a nice milky consistency like I was talking about. As you can see, it looks really soft. That's the type of consistency you want to paint with. Okay, so if it doesn't look like that, then you're not shaking your paints good enough. Just make sure when you're shaking them that they don't come flying out of your hands, because that's happened to me a couple times. And I've dropped a couple paints, and unfortunately I've lost half a jar of black because I dropped it over. So just be careful while you're painting. It's going to happen to the best of us. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be the best painter ever, and you just put it back on the little stick here without touching it on the other side, because that's still drying. But I just want to make sure that it stays on this little support stick here. That way while I'm painting it and I want to let it dry, I don't have to like lean it up against something, because that's not going to dry proper. Okay, so, and for this, again, I am going to go over it probably with a little bit of extra material, so extra paint, because I want it to be really like a nice coat on this, okay? I'm not as worried about the brass as I am the black. I want the black to look a lot smoother than the brass. And the reason why is when I go over it and I start adding rust, or I start adding different weathering effects to it, or like grime, for example, it's gonna look kind of nasty anyhow. So I'm not as worried. But on the black, that's a different story, because if you make black look greasy or grimy, it doesn't look good. And I know there's some people that would probably say, no, I disagree. You can make black grimy and rusty and all that. But it's really hard to do that and to see it properly. So I actually gave up and abandoned that idea for now. Okay, I'm not saying you have to give up on it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm just saying I've had a really hard time of adding grime or anything onto black because it just doesn't show, and it starts to kind of look brown, and I don't want to like lose the primary color black because this is the Black Legion. This is my Chaos Space Marine army. I want them to look like the colors are obvious. You look at it and go, oh, yep, there's Chaos Space Marines. I know exactly who those guys are. That's Black Legion. I don't want them to look at it and go, is this Nurgle? Or, like, are these guys, like, Renegade Raiders? Like, what the heck? You know, what war band is this, if you will? And I'll just say, no, this isn't either of those. This is the Black Legion. So if you go with a weird color scheme, just be prepared for people to ask you, like, what are you trying to represent on the table? And it's okay if you want to choose your own colors. Like, some people, they paint them rainbow colored. It is kind of funny, but, like, I will never do that. But it's an option. So I just painted the back of this. Really nice consistency, good coverage. And then what I want to do is I want to paint on the outside edge here and down here on the bottom and all around the black, but that's not done drying yet. So I'm going to put this to the side while this dries, and then I'm going to come back to it and go over it with Retributor armor, okay? So we have any questions in the chat, any you know, comments, anything like that, give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. That helps guys like me, because I'm just doing this full time and I'm trying to make it on YouTube, so. Let me just check my phone, see what kind of comments I got, if any. Oh, Douglas Dews. I am the only one. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, man. It's okay if you're the only one watching for right now. So, I appreciate the company. Thank you for the thumbs up, too. For those that did that, I really appreciate that. I'm usually only on for about an hour, so I might cut this short, might not, hard to say. But how's your night going? Might be a little bit of a delay when I say it to when you respond, so no big deal. Are you an artist by any chance? Oh, you're real good? All right. Awesome. I'm doing good too, man. I'm a little tired, not gonna lie. It's kind of late here. It's like 11 o'clock at night, so. But it's usually when I stay up late and I like to work on things because it's like me time, you know? Like if you have kids or, you know, anything like that, everyone goes to sleep at night. Like this is the only time I kind of have to like work on stuff that I really want to work on. And then during the day, I get errands done, whatever needs done around the house, stuff like that. Okay, yep, you're same time zone as me. All good, man. Oh, it's nice. Is it cold by you, or are you in a better temperature area? 'Cause I'm up in Minnesota, so it's cold up here. It's not freezing cold, but it's getting there. Check the varnish on this. Oh, it's cold? Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, it's coming. It is coming. The winter is coming. Yup. Yup. Luckily, we're in an apartment complex, and, like, we're in the city, so they do a pretty good job of plowing stuff around here. But we'll see how they do this year. Like, last year, it didn't get too much snow. But I'm sure, you know, maybe this year will be the year that we get dumped on. Who knows? So, hard to say. I mean, sometimes they can predict the weather right. Sometimes they can't. So now I'm going to go ahead and apply some varnish. This is satin, and this is something you want to put over acrylic. So this is the subject that I'm working on. I've already put one coat on here. I want to put another coat on here. And the reason why you want to put this varnish on here is that it protects it from like your fingerprints, right? If you're touching this, it's got paint on it. Even if it's dry paint, over time, this paint is going to start to wear. So you put 2 coats on it of this satin finish, which is like a semi-gloss. It's a nice, you don't want it high gloss. And I also have matte as well. So a matte finish, which is different. But this is satin, and I use this on like armor. I use this on weapons. And then for matte I would use on like if I'm painting bone or like rock or something that's dry. Even mud. Honestly, like if I'm painting mud, I'll use a matte finish on it. And it looks pretty good. Like, so on this guy that I painted, right? I used matte finish on the bottom. So when I did the camo basing that I painted on there, I used a matte varnish, and it looked really nice. And I do 3 coats of that because I want to make sure if I have to pick this up, if I'm traveling anywhere, whatever. And then I usually do 2 coats of satin, and that's why he looks kind of shiny. So he looks kind of shiny because I put the varnish on there. I could put matte on it, but I think armor should look shiny, right? And I want it to look old. I want it to look weathered. I want it to look battle hardened, you know? So I have like scrape effects on it, cut effects on it. Okay, yep, D&D. Yep, that's very, I've actually seen minis for Dungeons and Dragons, which is kind of cool. I actually have one. I have a Wyvern, like a small dragon, if you will. But I have him based, I haven't chose his color yet, but I'm thinking green. Personally, I want to do it green. I think a green dragon would look really cool. Or red, of course. Red looks good. You could even do purple, and honestly, purple looks kind of cool on a dragon. It depends, right? But if you want to make it look a certain way, it's amazing what you can do. So like for D&D, I do see minis kind of coming into that playscape, because I think when you have your board or your map, your dungeon that you're crawling through, that you want to have something that's tangible while you're moving through the storyline. And minis are kind of coming into, I don't know if it's been a thing, like forgive me, I'm not 100%. I got a buddy who plays D&D a lot, like probably every weekend he plays it. I don't know a whole lot about it, so I do respect it. I think it's really fun. I think it's a cool concept. I've never done it, but I can appreciate what it's done and how it's built up the kind of it kind of goes hand in hand with Warhammer, right? Like whenever I go to like hobby stores, I'm seeing D&D and then I'm seeing 40K. And it's kind of cool how they're kind of like next to each other. They're not the same thing, but they're similar enough. So yeah, but 40K is where I'm at. I'm not in fantasy. I love fantasy, but I'm more of a sci-fi kind of guy. You know, and 40K is like the ultimate sci-fi setting next to like Dune, right? And of course Star Wars. Sure, you could say Star Wars. There's a lot to Star Wars. I'm not like a mega Star Wars nerd fan, but I can really appreciate it. And I grew up watching the Star Wars movies, so until I found Dune, and I was like, what is this? Oh my God, this is gold, you know, like that's cinematic genius. And then you start to watch other movies like Space Odyssey 2001 and all the Stanley Kubrick, Aliens, like, oh my God, man. You should put black and red. Okay, I will do that. I will. What do you think? Should his wings be red, or do you want like more red and like less black, or like more black and red, you know? Because I'm trying to figure out like a good color scheme for him. But I think, yeah, black and red would look sick for sure. So I could do like an underbelly with red and have him black up top, so kind of like an otter style. Or I could do even black, and if I'm really crazy, I could do red scales with a little bit of black on the tip. You know what I mean? So I can get pretty crazy with it. It's not a big mini. It's not like this big, but it's like that big, so it's decently sized. So my wife is sleeping over here, so she's just, you okay? Just sleepy? Yeah. Okay, well, that's good. But varnish is on here, so now I'm just gonna let this dry, but this will protect it from people touching it or, you know, UV light as well. So you don't wanna have your minis like on your dash of your car, they're gonna melt, but this will just at least protect it from like most things that will smudge your paint or your oil from your fingers if you're playing a sweaty game or if it's really humid. This will protect it. So I always recommend to varnish your minis, okay, with a brush. There is spray varnish you can get. Sure, you could do that too. For me, I like to use a brush because you get a nice thick coat on there. And if you spray it, yeah, you can get there too, but for me, I just like to be, oh, the bone should be black? Oh, fuck yeah. Okay. I know what you're saying. I will do that. I think that'd look really sick. The bone should be black, yes. So I can do his nails black, on his wings, when he opens them up, all the bones that you can see on the inside to that wingspan, I'll paint that black. And then he doesn't spit fire, but I could actually make that a possibility. So you could buy effects for it, where the withering is spitting out fire. So you could buy that online. And I could just glue it to it or attach it in a way, or even use magnets. Some people use magnets, but I think it would look really cool up on like a gaming shelf. Excuse me. Because I don't have my gaming shelf built yet, but I want to build one over here in my area. So this is kind of like my hobby area. But I want to do shelving all along to have all my minis up there, or like some of my supplies. That way this isn't, you know, there's not as much going down here, and I can actually move and like work on my desk and do things that I want to do. So, and then I got a microphone over there. I got to set that up, but yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Douglas. I appreciate that, brother. It's really nice to talk to someone. It gets kind of lonely at night, you know. There's not too many people on. I'm sure there's people on, but maybe they're not looking at channels like this, but I appreciate the company. Because it's like I could just paint here by myself and just, you know, be by myself, and that's fine. I've done that. But sometimes I like to go live just because I like to interact with different people and just talk to people on here. Even if it's not like we're not verbally talking, but I feel like we're verbally talking, you know what I mean? So I appreciate the engagement, sir. All right, let's take a look at the Chain Reaper cannon and see how that's coming along. So it's been way over 15 minutes. But this is my Chain Reaper cannon, which is going to go on my Space Marine. So it's like a minigun. There's a lot more work I got to do on this to paint it up. So what I'm going to do, I already know it's dry. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do with a brush, not this brush in particular, but all the brass fittings that go around this. I'm going to do that in Retributor Gold. To make it a nice effect on here, because the gold on top of the black is a really nice contrast. And then I'll be, oh, I can show you the dragon. Yeah, brother. For sure. Yeah, just a minute. It's a wyvern, so it's like a smaller dragon. It's like, it's not like a juvenile dragon, if you will. Should be just a moment. Let me find the boy. Where are ye at, boy? Boyo. Let me see here. Ah, here he is. Here it is. I also have a rock for him too, so he'll be standing on top of a rock. But as you can see, this is the dragon, right? Little wyvern, if you will. And you can see his underbelly. This is just putty. I have it on here just so I can like hold it onto something, or I don't paint over certain areas while I'm doing it. A little dusty, so I might wash it off before I continue working on him. But like, he's just a really cool, and his like head is kind of up, so it's kind of arched up. rather than it looking down. I might get a dragon that's looking down too. So this one's looking up at him, and the other one's like looking down. It'll be like on top of my shelving. It might look kind of cool with some books on there. So it's just a little guy, but really cool. I would love to paint him up, and you know, like you were saying, like a black on red. So you can see he's got spikes here with his scales, his armor, and that could probably just be black, going all the way down to the bone, and then the red would be, well, you're saying black would be the bone, so or the scales maybe, depending, but the red would be in between each of these bones, but it would be black, and it would look really freaking cool. So that's probably what I'll go with. He's got hands on his wings, which is kind of interesting. Sometimes dragons don't have that. This one, a wyvern, this one uses its arms as wings, so kind of like a pterodactyl, if you will, which is kind of cool. And he's got like a club on his back tail here, so to defend himself. So, jeez, hon, she sounds horrible. She's going to the doctor tomorrow, so we'll get that checked out. She got the bronchitis. But there's my little wyvern. So not 40K related at all, but just something I could paint up. Okay. The wyvern. Fine. All right. So I'll put this guy back. Yeah, and it's about an hour. So I usually cut these short, like, you know, I'm about an hour long for most of these. I don't want to have any longer than that, just because I got other stuff to do. And but either way, I really appreciate everybody coming on here. The very few of you that did, I do appreciate it. Again, this is just a video I'm trying to post every night, trying to. Oh, tomorrow I will probably be on. Jeez, honey. Around the same time. Probably about 10 o'clock at night. Maybe, you know, 10 o'clock, 10:30. Usually around this time I'm on. I'll start scheduling it too, because I want to start scheduling it. That way I'm keeping up with this, with the progress. So anything else that I'm painting, I'll be continuing to work on that. Is she okay? She's not the best. I think she might have bronchitis or something. She's got to go in. She's had a really nasty cough for like 2 weeks now, and she's just felt horrible. So, hopefully she's okay. I know she got this last year too, like a really nasty coughing fit, but this year it seems to be even worse. So we're gonna take her in and have them do some tests on her to see if there's something underlying. But yeah, she's just not doing the best, so yeah. Well, thank you for asking, though. Yeah. So hopefully she gets this fixed, because it's just been really nasty, and she's able to get a little bit better. But anyway, I'm gonna be signing off for tonight. I really appreciate everybody joining me, watching me do some basic painting, nothing crazy. This takes a long time, okay? If you're a fast painter, you get really good at it. You can paint a lot. You can paint very quickly, very efficiently. For me, I'm not as worried about time. I'm more worried about quality, okay? So quality painting. Not doing like the best, highest professional level job, but a really better job than most. So that's what I try to strive for as an artist. So, but all right, Douglas, you take care. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow. If you do join me, I would appreciate that. So, cool, brother. All right. Everyone else have a good night. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'm going to go ahead and turn off live and see you tomorrow. Bye.